All right. Welcome back to Draws and Fades, episode 101. Preview of the RBC Canadian Open at St. George Golf and Country Club outside of beautiful Toronto, Canada. I'm your host, Owen Vrabel, joined by my co-host, Matthew Miller.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back.
And producer, Nick Boss.
What's going on, boys? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Definitely not a victory Monday, even though we did touch on Billy Horschel potentially playing well last week. And I hit a top 20 on him. He wins the Memorial in somewhat of a runaway, extremely impressive Saturday, which kind of left him with a 5-shot lead going into Sunday and did more than enough to win. We will recap that. But before we do, make sure to win big in 2022 with rotoballer.com's PGA Premium Pass. Are you ready to dominate? Rotoballer's premium DFS package includes exclusive tools, DFS cheat sheets, research stations, our lineup optimizer, and so much more to help you win big. Limited time, get your PGA Premium Pass for 50% off and use our promo code DNF10 for another 10% discount. Just visit rotoballer.com/radio to sign up today and start rotoballing like a boss. So, yeah, I guess recap the somewhat pain of having a runaway at the Memorial. Then we'll get into the course preview at St. George. Week before a major, U.S. Open next week at Brookline. All exciting. So we'll give you our strategy for this week for betting and one and done. Go through the odds list on FanDuel. Pretty tough looking board, very top heavy. So, that being said, we do have some big names here. Scheffler, Rory, JT, Cam Smith, Sam Burns. We'll give you our outright plays, top 10s, top 20s, and we will give one and dones at the end, as well as a little brief preview of the LIV Golf Tour, which has dropped their field and is having their first event this week. And hot off the press, Phil Mickelson will be joining, and he just signed for a shit ton of money. So Phil is back, and he's richer than he ever was and can probably pay off all his gambling debts now. So good for Phil.
Yeah.
We'll give you our thoughts on the first event. It's going to be interesting to see how everything kind of plays out over there. It's in London. So in terms of feeling confident on who the hell is going to win, we definitely don't, but we will have a few picks to play over there just for a little fun to start the LIV Golf Tour. But yeah, give us a follow at draws_n_fades on Twitter, at Owen_Vrabel, and at MattyMills85 as well. And please leave a review on Apple or Spotify if you get the chance. We'd appreciate it. So that he looks really good, man. He plays well at these tougher tracks sometimes, and it was an impressive win. He was extremely accurate with his driver, was great with his putter. He was great pretty much everywhere. Anytime I thought that he might start giving away strokes out of the rough or in fairway bunkers, he was hitting balls to inside 10 feet and making birdies. So really didn't feel too much of a shot come Sunday, even though the week really started pretty well. Felt pretty good about a few plays. Neiman's, Zalatoris.
We were right there. We had 3 guys finish inside the top 5.
Yeah, home up. Yep.
So, we just didn't have Bill, and he kind of ran away with it.
We did not have Bill, unfortunately. I guess of the good, we did hit top 20s on Keith Mitchell, which was kind of a scare because he did not finish particularly well.
He was after Friday, I'm like, ooh, Keith might be the week. Saturday, took about 3 holes and confirmed that it was not the week.
Yeah.
And he felt
then it started to be scary if he was going to catch a top 20 or not. I also hit a Luke List top 40 and, of course, had money on the top 20 for Horschel, but not to win. So it's always nice hitting a plus 200 top 20 ticket instead of a 65-1 outright ticket. Nevertheless, it was impressive from Bill. And I like we said last week, we were going to go towards the top of the board, and we were wrong. So that's all we can say.
Yeah, you like you said, when Horschel's on, he's good. And it's annoying. I know that I consider him to be that next level good because the whole time when I was looking at the leaderboard and we were chasing, he was the guy where I'm like, God, Horschel is annoyingly up there because a lot of the other guys that were up there, I didn't trust to close it out. The Cam Youngs and, some of those younger guys, I'm like, they're going to, they could fall apart. When Horschel was up there, I did not have faith that he was going to crumble at all. He's kind of one of those guys. It's pretty tough and can grind it out at the end.
Yeah. Yep, and that's what he did. I mean, he shot even par on Sunday to win. Neiman shot himself in the foot multiple times. Every time it felt like he was making a run, he would throw in a double bogey.
He's so frustrating, man.
Yeah. So, but at the end of the day, it's not like you're trying to win a golf tournament. So hitting an outright ticket, as we know, is difficult. We had a nice little run there in May, but it doesn't take much to put you out of contention when you're trying to win. So he played really well, just wasn't enough to catch Billy. So we live and we learn. But
yeah,
Horschel over 60 to 1, tough tournaments might be worth a look. I don't know if he'll ever. I don't know. Like the U.S. Opens next week, is he in consideration?
I mean, yeah, he is like a guy who can kind of go on runs. I mean, I guess it was a while ago when we saw it, but like he's won big events and he's won them consecutively. So I guess it's not totally out of the question. What sucks about Bill is that like he's a guy we've both taken like
oh yeah, the Billy
2 times this year. Like, we like Bill. We've taken him like quite a bit, and then we don't take him this week and he wins. It's like, what the hell, man? We've been on you enough. How about giving us one?
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's 50 to 1 at the U.S. Open now, so could have got him 65 to 1 at the Memorial. Now he's 50 to 1 at the U.S. Open. We'll see if we get there.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to talk yourself into that, but we'll see what the odds do next week. They always kind of jump around week of.
Yeah, we shall see. But yeah, week before a major, so these weeks are always, I feel like they're tough to get up for, whether you're betting on them or if you're playing in them. But it is interesting because you got 5 top, 12 players in the world playing this week, and we're in Canada. It's a tournament that Dustin Johnson would typically be at, considering he is a sponsor of RBC, but he is going to be in London playing in the Live Golf Tour. So who the hell knows what's going to end up with Dustin Johnson's career? But it's interesting not seeing him here, and obviously now Rory, JT, Scheffler have kind of taken the mantle of best players here, which they probably would have been anyway. It would have been interesting to see what DJ's odds would have been. But the odds board, we'll get into it. It's not super appealing to look at. And I don't know if the field is not great. We'll say that because the middle of the board is also not very appealing. So
yeah, it's like top heavy, and then the middle is just kind of like these guys are pretty shitty numbers compared to where we're used to seeing them, and then the bombs are just bad.
Right, but that being said, I was gonna say week before a major gives you the vibes, and not a great field, giving us pretty good long shot odds, but you never know what the motivation of some of these guys is going to be. That being said, I'm kind of just spinning myself in a circle here because KH Lee won the Byron Nelson before the PGA, and you can say KH Lee, I think he went went off at over 100 to 1, but JT, Spieth, Hideki all played well that week too. I mean, it is a tune-up event, but a tune-up event in theory is an event you want to play well at. So I could see one of the top guys coming out and just lighting this place on fire. Another course, again, we haven't seen in 10 years, so it's hard to really have any course history knowledge or anything like that. And the Canadian Open in general, we haven't previewed on this podcast before because the last time we saw it was back in 2019 where Rory won. So it's definitely a tough week to handicap, but we're going to fire away at some picks here. We'll see where we end up. But yeah, I mean, we're at St. George Golf and Country Club, Matt. What do you got for us?
Yeah, par 77,046 yards. A little bit of discrepancy on the greens. Bent grass is what I'm going with. There's kind of some people saying bent with POA overseed. There's apparently a video going around from a groundskeeper who said they switched it over to bent, but regardless, I'm not going to be making my picks solely based on the green type, so I'm just going to go with bent, call it a day, move on.
Fair enough.
It's kind of an odd par 70 setup, 5 par 3s, 10 par 4s, and 3 par 5s. The par 3s, 4 or 5 of them are long. They're over 200 yards. The par 5s are short. The longest one's like 570 yards. The other ones are way under that. So all of them are gettable in 2. I guess the 571, if you missed a fairway, you might have a little bit of trouble. But If you're in the fairway, you should be able to get to all of them in 2. And then the par 4s, 4 of them are under 450, 6 of them are over, kind of a mixed bag there. But the overall point of that is, if you look at the yardage, you're thinking it's a short course, par 70, just over 7,000 yards. But actually, the way it kind of breaks down with the yardage, it's going to be a course where you're going to have to hit a lot more long irons than you would anticipate looking at the yardage. There's a lot of tree-lined fairways. A lot of these holes, you're going to be kind of hitting iron off the tee or less than driver, which leaves you longer approaches coming in. As you can see, the par 3s are longer. You're going to be hitting, longer irons there. The greens here are smaller than normal. So kind of with the longer approaches and the smaller than normal green, I think that kind of leaves a lot of missed greens in play, in which case you kind of have to look a little bit around the green as well. So I'm going to be looking at driving accuracy because you can't get yourself into trouble missing the fairway. Obviously, approach, I would say 175 to 200, and then above that. And a little bit of around the green and putting on bent. I don't know if you had kind of any other thoughts you're going with this week. Or, it's interesting because we don't know what the winning score is going to be because we haven't seen this since 2014. A lot of people are guessing in the minus 15 range.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could get low. I really, it's obviously a lot of the golfers in the last few years have been starting to really tear down some courses, and we have not seen this place in 10 years. We do have some very talented players here in the field, no doubt about it. So I really think I'm kind of going with, like you said, good accuracy off the tee, but also elite iron play. I'm looking for strokes gain approach, strokes gain ball striking. And guys that I think can give themselves plenty of looks on the par 5s to make eagle and really taking advantage of those par 5s. The par 3s, 5 of them I think it does make it interesting because you're not typically looking to score on the par 3s. But I think the guys who have the most success on the par 3s this week will probably end up having a good week if they can, obviously take advantage of the par 5. So those two in combination with being just a kind of solid all-around player, because like you said, similar to a couple courses we've seen recently, like even last week at Memorial or at Colonial a few weeks ago, where if you're not hitting these greens, you're going to need to be good around the green. And it's usually a combination that a lot of guys aren't pulling off too well. So that being said, I think if you're taking guys that are good on approach and maybe aren't the best around the green, you're kind of hoping that their ceiling iron play is what comes this week and that they can not put themselves in trouble around the green and can give themselves birdie looks as often as possible. Like I said in the beginning, I think it's a tough week to handicap considering we haven't been here in 10 years and it being the week before a major. So I have some thoughts on some guys in the middle of the board that I think will give themselves good opportunities this week, and that's where I'm looking. So we will get into the odds board because we have 3 guys under 10 to 1. Scotty Scheffler, Justin Thomas, and Rory McIlroy all between plus 850 and plus 950 on FanDuel currently. And then we got Cam Smith, Sam Burns at 1,100 and 1,400. And then Matthew Fitzpatrick, Shane Lowry, and Corey Connors all between 18 and 20 to 1 on FanDuel. So that's 8 guys that are under 20 to 1. And honestly, I think I'll just include Finau and Tyrrell Hatton here because that really feels like kind of the top tier of the board, I guess, more elite players, as you'd say, and then it kind of slips pretty quickly after that. So that's a group of 10 guys that are under 30 that, in theory, definitely have the best chance to win this week. The numbers are not great at all. Obviously, anytime you're getting Corey Connors at 20 to 1, I think is a tough look. But we're in Canada, so maybe that's why that's happening. But yeah, man, I mean, were you drawn anywhere in particular at the top of the board?
It's a pretty gross top of the board. I mean, we can go through the names if you want in a little more detail. Kind of the guy that stuck out to me, and I don't know if I'm even going to get there, is Hatton.
Yep.
That's because I feel like that's the one guy where, like, he's not really slashed. I mean, you could see him at 27, not in like a major or anything, but in any of these, any regular tournament with a decent field, I feel like Hatton could be at that price, and you're not going to be like, that's outrageous. It seems pretty fair. So given kind of the weak field below him and some of these names above him that I think are priced kind of ridiculously. I feel like Hatton's kind of the most fair value in this range.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at it, if you like Matthew Fitzpatrick, Shane Lowry under 20-1, I think are both tough. And then Burns and Cam Smith at 11 and 14. And then obviously the guys under 10-1, it's just not worth it in my opinion. I mean, it could be you want to make it like a single bullet type week. I think you could go that route. But it's a little bit more fun to spread your wealth around and see what you can do a little bit further down the board. That being said, I could see Rory, Scheffler, JT, any of them getting extremely hot this week. They've all played well recently and just, win easily and just put up a ridiculous score.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those weeks if they get you at 9-1, they get you at 9-1.
Right. And you take that any day of the week. So that was pretty easy for me to kind of skip past him. I hate that Sam Burns has been placed into this elite category now, but it's fair. And I'm kind of pissed I missed out on his last win when he was, high 20s, low 30s. But he's at 14, so I think that's pretty unbettable too. Like I said, Corey Connors, in theory, I think this course will shape up well for him. He's definitely a shot maker and can be very good off the tee. And I think, we'll see the strategy that guys use out here. If they're going to be not pulling driver as often, I think his long irons will help him, and he should feel comfortable in Canada. But maybe the Canadians are going to feel a little added pressure. We haven't had the Canadian Open in a few years. That's a lot. The Canadians are going to be fired up to be out there, fired up to be watching some of their golfers, and they're going to want to see him perform. So I hope for Corey's sake he plays well, but I couldn't get there either. Hatton was the guy that stuck out for me too. And, I mean, I've taken Tyrrell Hatton tons of times on this podcast. It has not profited me yet in the outright market. But, I mean, in 2022, he's yet to miss a cut on the PGA Tour. We've seen 3 top 13 finishes with a runner-up at the Arnold Palmer. Played well at the Players with the 13th and played well at the PGA last time we saw him. And if there was going to be a week where I feel like Hatton could kind of pull off a win kind of under the radar, I think it would be a week like this where he could potentially see himself in, contention on a Sunday and maybe not have to be dealing with too many big names. Unlike me taking him at all the majors and playing pathetically at most of the time. So I don't know. There's something about Hatton. He's putting extremely well. He's gained strokes putting over his last 11 or 12 starts. He's first in this field in putting over his last 36 rounds. And he's been pretty inaccurate off the tee, which I think is slightly concerning. But considering that I do think they'll be pulling driver a little bit less, I think those stats maybe not as meaningful as they would be if you could pull, how well they were doing when hitting 3-wood or long irons off the tee. Because, his ball striking numbers are a little bit down, but his approach game is still solid. Tee to green is still solid, and we know he can be very good around the green and on the green. So I think, in theory, this course shapes up well for Hatton. Very similar to Matthew Fitzpatrick, who I'm not taking, but, get 27-1 instead of 18-1.
Yeah, and, Hatton's at least won before rather than Matt Fitzpatrick, who
That's very fair.
has not, yeah. So.
But I think we would be remiss if we didn't bring Boss back in just for a second here, because before we get into the middle tier and the rest of the board, Boss has a thought at the top of the board, and it's going to be his, just his play of the week. So,
play of the week is going to be Matt Fitzpatrick. It's
right.
gross. It's terrible. It feels wrong, but that's what I'm going to do. Single bullet, Matty Fitz, first win on, I guess, North American soil. I was going to say U.S., but that would be incorrect. Let's do it.
That would be convenient for him to win in Canada for his first win on the PGA.
It actually would be an interesting little loophole, because then we just keep saying he's never won in the United States. So,
right. Yeah, like I said with Hatton, I think it shapes up well for him. And same with Lowry. And, I don't think as much so Tony Finau, but also for Cam Smith and all the guys at the top of the board. That's why they're up here. But it's tough seeing these numbers. So I like that you're at least just – that's going to be your play. You're not going to involve yourself with the rest of the board.
One bullet, one guy. We'll see how it goes.
All right. Well, have you used them in one and done?
I'll have to check, but I don't think I have. I'd be very surprised if I had. But I've done crazier things this weekend. So my intent, though, is to take him one and done as well. Just across the board, Matt Fitzpatrick. It's one name. It's all the slots I have, and we'll keep moving.
All right. Fair enough. All right. Thank you, boss. Yeah, that's the Matthew Fitzpatrick take of the week. I don't support it, but I do agree with the thought process that if you want to take a guy under 20-1, maybe you just overload on him and don't really concern yourself with the rest of the field. And if he doesn't play well, you just move on, which
I can
in this tournament
say,
could be happening very easily. So
I think that will maybe be the last nice thing ever said about Matt Fitzpatrick on this show.
I mean, if we don't let Boss talk ever again, I feel like he has nice things to say about Matthew Fitzpatrick relatively often. So, what are you gonna say? He likes him, and he's been really good. We're not gonna lie, he's been really good. He just hasn't been able to close the door on a win. So until then, I'm allowed to continue to rip on Matt Fitzpatrick. So we're over 30-1. I guess we can mention Tony Finau real quick. I mean, he's at 25-1. I feel like that's kind of like he's just getting the benefit of the doubt there. I don't really think this course shapes up well for him in particular. But I mean, he played well. He's played well at Colonial, another like kind of shot maker's course. And he actually has been striking the ball really well recently. And I think he will be able to take advantage of the par fives. I'm kind of spin zone my way here. But I mean, this would be a win that Tony Finau would have on his mantle. A Canadian Open before a major, but yeah, I couldn't get there either.
Yeah, no. And not to get sidetracked here, and we can get into this later on, I'm sure, but like, does Tony Finau not make a whole lot of sense to just go to the Live Golf?
He's got too much. He's got morals, dude.
Does he?
I mean, I think it makes sense, but yeah, he does. Yeah, he's a family man. He's a religious guy. I feel like he's gonna be sticking over here. I mean, I would be shocked. He would be one that I would be pretty shocked if he did it.
Yeah, but think about it. I mean, he doesn't really have much of a legacy. Like he doesn't really win enough.
No, yeah. I mean, in theory, it would work. But that's the thing is, you could make that case for pretty much everyone, which is why we're under the impression, we'll get to it later, that probably we're going to start seeing some other names that are going to start going over there.
Well, I won't get too ahead of ourselves. We'll move on.
I mean, we'll start seeing some. We're gonna find out what the ramifications are. It's liquid. We're gonna find out what the hell's going on as time goes on. So, but yeah, we're over 30-1, and there's gonna be some surprising names here. I mean, we have Harold Varner, Adam Hadwin, and Sebastian Munoz, all 33, 34-1 on FanDuel. Patrick Reed is also at 34-1. He's kind of seems like he's maybe turning it around a bit. Didn't play particularly well last week, but he's also at 34-1. And then we got Sahith Theegala, Keith Mitchell, Chris Kirk, all at 42-1. Chris Kirk actually at 45-1 on FanDuel. And then Justin Rose, Mackenzie Hughes, and Johnny Vegas. Johnny Vegas, low-key, great player in Canada. He's got 2 Canadian Opens under his belt. So those are the guys between 30 and 50. And this is kind of what we're talking about with this field. It's not the sexiest of boards. Anytime you see Munoz, Varner, Theegala, Johnny Vegas, all under 50. I mean, we'll give the benefit of the doubt to, Justin Rose, Patrick Reed, even Mackenzie Hughes to an extent. I feel like maybe justifiable being this high. I don't really like any of them in particular either. So, Matt, lead us off here in this middle tier. I feel like we might be on the same page with a couple guys.
Yeah, well, I'm going to start off, no surprise, Keith Mitchell.
You're going back to him.
I'm going back to it. Well, he first of all, I mean, he didn't win last week, but he did do us well. He got us to top 20. He showed us signs at a tough course. Like, that's a respectable finish at the Memorial for him.
Yep.
He played really good through 2 rounds, and he actually was fine on Sunday. He just had an atrocious Saturday. So, yeah, I'm on board Keith Mitchell. He was good at the PGA too. Well, 34th. I mean, not great, but pretty good. It's a solid finish at a tough event. This is not going to be as tough as those 2. And, I kind of touched on this at the Wells Fargo episode. Didn't come to fruition, but we had some bad weather going there. He's been really good this year on the short courses, under 7,200 yards.
Yep.
Really has played them well. I mean, look at some of his finishes: 9th at the Honda, 7th at the Sony, 12th at Pebble, 13th at the Players. He's been all over the short courses. I really like him. I mean, he's long off the tee, but then he gets super accurate when he kind of clubs down. He's been putting well lately. His around the green could use some work, but he did gain over 2 strokes around the green last week on a tough around the green course Memorial, so that's a positive. And 2 out of the last 3 that makes where he gained around the green. He lost at Southern Hills, which is obviously very tough. So it looks like he's kind of getting that going a little bit. So I like Keith a lot this week. I feel like this might be one that he could steal where the top of the board's, kind of more focused on next week. And then all of a sudden he's like kind of right up there with the rest of the guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely fair. Keith Mitchell, I was drawn to this week. I mean, I think you mentioned the short course success of late, which is impressive considering, he's more known for his tee to green game and being long off the tee, which I think will benefit him here on the par fives. I think he'll be able to take advantage of those. And his short game has been above average. I mean, he's putted well. He's 19th in strokes gained putting over his last 36 rounds in this field, and a middling 64th in strokes gained around the green, which I think is pretty good for him, considering he's going to need to take advantage of his ball striking to really get into contention this week. But combine that with a good putter, if he can club down off the tee on these difficult holes, I think he'll put himself in the mix. 42-1, not too bad. We've seen four top 13 finishes in 2022, five top 13 finishes in 2022. So, I mean, he's been sniffing leaderboards on Sunday.
Yeah. Keith he's having himself a year.
No, he's having a good year. Last week, obviously, kind of imploded on the weekend, but had played well enough to, cash a top 20, and I think he's kind of keep rolling in the right direction here. And we'll see. I think if he could be one of those guys that if he really takes advantage of the par fives, I think he'll find himself right in the mix. So I like that a lot. And I'm going back to a guy who I took in the finishing market last week, Chris Kirk, who played like absolute dog shit. But that's the thing. You can't hop off a guy too early. And his stats are still really good. I mean, in the model I ran this week, he's second on my model. So it's been really good on approach, really good ball striking, tee to green, opportunities gained around the green. He's been great. The putter has not been great, but everything else has been well above average. He's also played the shorter course as well. Chris Kirk, I think, lines up very nicely for this week. I think he'll be a perfect bounce back play. I'll take him in the finishing market as well. And I think, I don't know, I feel like a guy like him, he obviously had a hot little stretch in the middle of February into March where he finished 14th at the Phoenix Open, 7th at the Honda, 5th at the Arnold Palmer. But he's played well of late until last week too. I mean, he's 5th at the PGA and 15th at Charles Schwab. So similar to Keith, I think he's had a really good year as well. And in a field like this, I feel like these guys are pretty good plays in the middle of the board.
Yeah, no, I like it. I'm actually on Kirk as well this week.
Let's do it.
Like you mentioned, he's great off the tee. Has not lost strokes since last October off the tee. And last week, I mean, he really struggled, but it was like kind of abnormal. He lost 5.1 strokes on approach. That was his first time since the Amex in January losing strokes on approach. So I'm kind of just expecting him to get back on track this week with the irons. And he's been good around the green. I mean, he's gained 4 straight. It's the putting that's kind of held him back. But as we know, I mean, putting is kind of that one category that week to week has, a lot of variance. So if he can just kind of be not bad on the greens and kind of be baseline and get back to where he could be with the irons, I definitely think he could be in the mix.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you could probably say this with a lot of guys, but you look at his last 5 top 15 finishes, which I kind of rattled off since the Phoenix Open. He's only gained strokes putting in 5 events, and those are the 5 events he came inside the top 15. So those are the weeks where he's going to be around because his irons and the rest of his game is that good, where if his putting is just slightly above average, he's going to be on the leaderboard come Sunday. So Chris Kirk, 45-1, not too shabby. I'll take it.
Yeah, it feels like a pretty fair and good number on him.
Yeah, pretty fair. I mean, I can't remember the last time I took Chris Kirk. I don't think it would have been at 45-1, but in this field, we'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, given some of the other names around, it's.
Did you have any inclination to take Patrick Reed this week, or you're still banking on him not really? Well, I mean, I kind of at this point you want him to play decent, right? I mean, you took him at the U.S. Open next week.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted him to save the win for the U.S. Open last week. I would have much preferred like a tied for 12th or something than a miscut. I will say I thought he was just horrendous on Thursday. Played a lot better on Friday. He missed a cut by 1, but he just had a brutal Thursday going there. I think he shot 2 under on Friday, so a little positive to take out of that. But yeah, I'm definitely hoping that Patrick Reed is pretty good this week. Just not going to get the win. Save that win for next week.
All right, fair enough. Also, I'm always rooting for Hale Varner III, but 33-1, tough number to get to. I mean, he's played really well as well, but obviously he kind of has that Tony Finau earlier in his career effect where it's kind of tough to see him closing a tournament at this point. But that being said, all the statistics are there. He's been really good on approach, really good tee to green, gives himself plenty of opportunities on the long par fives. He's been really good around the green, which is kind of surprising for Varner. So, yeah, things kind of check out for Varner. I may go back to a first-round leader well with him. I mean, he cashed us that split a couple weeks back, so I may go back.
What's going on with the first-round leaders now? It's just like every week we have a huge split.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking this week maybe Varner's going to get out -7, cash us a full first-round leader, and then probably disappear on Sunday. So that's my hope with Varner. Didn't really have many other thoughts. Obviously, like I said, Vegas has been really good in Canada. I don't know if there's anything to that. His 2 wins were at Glen Abbey, which was back between 2015 and 2018. There were 4 consecutive years there. But new course, Johnny Vegas and Munoz give me very similar vibes where I always think that they could potentially go low for a particular round, but consistently for 4 rounds have a harder time believing it. Even though we did see Munoz obviously play really well as well lately too. So it's just weird seeing them under 50-1.
Yeah, I feel like we've both gone down the Johnny Vegas rabbit hole a little bit in the past. And, he kind of, oh wow, he's got some potential there, and it doesn't really work out. So I'm gonna stay away, just given my past experience with him.
Fair enough. All right, well, so let's get over 50 into pretty quickly into deep bomb territory. But we got CT Pan 60-1, Brendan Todd 65, Pat Perez and Rasmus Højgaard also at 65. Then Dylan Fratelli, Nick Hardy, Matt Wallace, Cam Champ, David Lipsky, Patrick Rogers, all at 80-1. And then Emiliano Grillo at 95, and we're over 100-1 after that. So pretty much bomb territory after the 60s. And, I mean, there's plenty of options over 100-1. So I don't know how frisky you're going to get this week, but between 65 and 100, do you have anyone in that area?
Well, actually, I have one guy in the area in between the 50s and the 65. I'm going to go to CT Pan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, there it is.
Yeah, the Panimal. I tend to like him on courses where, he kind of demands accuracy. That's kind of when I tend to think that he could play well. But he's actually been pretty good with his irons lately. I mean, I was pretty surprised to see this. He's gained on approach in 9 straight starts right now.
Okay.
Which is definitely good for CT Pan. The around the green and putting it's kind of inconsistent, but it's over the last 5 to 10 events, it's pretty baseline. So over the last 5 events, he's lost 0.3 around the green, gained 2 putting. Then if you stretch it to 10 events, he's gained 0.5 around the green and 0.2 putting. So he's pretty average at those 2. But I think if he could hit fairways and get the irons going, he's got a chance to hang around. We've seen him be kind of sneaky in some of these events that he hangs around in. If you remember back to the Olympics where I had him to medal and he got the bronze in that ridiculous playoff.
Right. Yeah.
I feel a little indebted to him after that. So I'm going to get back on CT this week.
Okay. All right. I'm not surprised. And CT, I mean, CT always pops off randomly. I mean, he's kind of like a little bit of a lesser version of Siwoo Kim to a degree.
That's fair.
You know what I mean? I feel like he can easily pop off on a leaderboard, and you're not overly surprised to CT Pan up there. So I like that. I'm going with a guy who I definitely don't take too often, a veteran on tour, Brendan Todd. I feel like Brendan Todd is like the perfect fit for this type of course where he doesn't necessarily have to be super long off the tee. He's been great in good drives gained and fairways gained over his last 36 rounds, top 10 in both of those categories. He's been phenomenal on the putting greens, and he's been good on the short courses. He's definitely not elite by any imagination with his irons, but he gains those strokes around the green and on the green. So when he's hitting fairways, he's giving himself chances to hit greens in regulation, and when he doesn't, he's going up and down for par. So I like Brendan Todd on this type of course, and we've seen him play really well of late. I mean, third of the Charles Schwab, where he kind of got hit in that last grouping with Scheffler, where really tough conditions, tough to make birdies, and he grinded it out and stayed in contention throughout. Played well at the Valero back in April, and it seems like Brendan Todd's one of those guys that can definitely string together a few, good performances in a row. So I'd like Brendan Todd this week at 65-1. Never thought that would be something that crossed my mind this week, but kind of going through the numbers, I think that this course actually shapes up pretty well for Brendan, considering I do think that Colonial is a pretty good comp in terms of, the shot making that it takes to play well here. So that's where I'm going in this, I guess, late middle tier with Brendan Todd.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I think that he is a pretty good fit for that. I've taken Todd a few times in the past, and he's kind of a pretty good player at this point. I like that pick.
All right, now that's where it gets interesting. I really didn't consider anyone else under 100.
Yeah, I mean,
I have some deeper thoughts, well over 100, that are more along the lines of if their peak iron play comes into fruition, I think that they can get in contention this week, but I think it'll be a big ask. But I think this is a good week to throw in a few bombs, so I'll let you lead off, and we can kind of go back and forth until we're out of plays.
Yeah, I have one more play down here. I could be probably convinced into another one given the state of my card currently. But it's been a while, but I'm gonna go back to the Postman, JT Poston.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you were going to say Postman or Matt Wallace. So
yeah, Matt Wallace has been trending a little bit, but I'm going to be on Poston. So he's been struggling for a while, but he's kind of turning it around a little bit lately. He's got 2 top 10s in his last 5 starts, 3rd at the RBC and 9th at Wells Fargo, which I think are 2 courses that are, similar in the way that they demand, to be accurate off the tee, and you can kind of get yourself in trouble if you're missing those spots. So I like that Poston played well here. His irons are starting to heat up a little bit. He's gained on approach in 3 straight starts, including 2.5 at the Memorial and 3 at Wells Fargo, which are pretty tough tests. So that's an encouraging sign. And we know that he has a great short game. So he can get really hot with the putter. If he can keep those irons going the way they have been going, I think that he has wouldn't necessarily say a good chance this week, but he's certainly in play. I could see him kind of sneaking back around. He's starting to trend in the right direction. He has also won before in his career at Sedgefield, which is, a course that some are using as a comp for this week. So I like that as well.
All right. I like it. I mean, Postman, not a stranger to your cards at all, and he's definitely cashed some nice finishing positions for you over the years. And I think anytime he gets hot with the putter, he can put himself in a good position to win. So I like that. I am well over 100, and I'm actually going to be playing 2 guys that you've talked about plenty, and I'm not going to be at the Canadian Open and not take Canadian, so I'm going to take Adam Svensson. 140-1 currently on FanDuel. You might be able to get a bit of a better number out there. I've seen him play well at another short, tough track at the Honda. Hasn't put together too many good performances of late, but he does have 3 straight made cuts, and a guy that can clearly get hot with his irons. I mean, he's in the top 30 and approach and ball striking over his last 36 rounds. He gives himself opportunities on the par 5s. His putting and around the green game is what holds him back. So I'm taking the ceiling play on Svensson, that he's just going to be absolutely dialed in from tee to green, and he's getting himself tons of birdie looks. And I think the under-the-radar Canadian this week, Adam Svensson.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I've taken Svensson a few times. I do. I like his game. It's good to see he's starting to play well again. He kind of went into a little miniature slump there about a month ago, but he's starting to kind of get things back together. I'm torn on him.
All right, well, I'll throw in another one for you. Another guy that, similar to Svensson, can be an elite iron player, can get very held back on the greens and around the greens, Austin Smotherman.
Smo.
15th in strokes gained approach over his last 36 rounds, 11th in ball striking, 10th in opportunities gained, and he's been really consistent off the tee. He's top 35 in both fairways gained and good drives gained. He's nearly dead last in strokes gained around the green, so Similar to Svensson, going to need him to just be pounding greens in regulation, give himself as many birdie looks as possible. Those long irons are going to come to play this week for the Smo, and we want Smo. So that's all I got for Smo. Smo and Svensson are the long shots of the week for me.
I do. I might not be able to resist Smo. I mean, I've taken him a few times. I will say, too, he is something to follow on Shot Track. I mean, he's very entertaining out there. But for whatever reason, I can't quit him. I might toss a bomb in on him with you. I could definitely get down with him for like a top 20 as well, or top 30, something like that. I'll check out those finishing position odds and probably take him for something like that. But I could see myself sneaking Smo onto the card. I definitely have room for one more there. Quite a few deeper plays this week.
So do you have any other long shots, or are you wrapped up?
No, I think I'm wrapped up. I mean, to be honest, I wanted to go like deep on someone, but it just seems like the more I scroll down, the grosser it got.
Yeah,
I mean, couldn't even really find someone that I was like. There was a guys I clicked on too, and I'm like, have they done anything? And it was just terrible. So I don't think I can get there with anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a few other guys that I'm inclined to just mention. I mean, Carlos Ortiz. I'm starting to see him at ridiculous numbers now. He's at 250 to 1.
Stats on Fantasy National, and it was so bad. I was like, I was like, is he playing that bad? Like 250 to 1 is insane. And I clicked on him, and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, he's in this field. He's over 100 in all of the categories basically that I use to make a model this week. So, he's been atrocious on approach, ball striking, tee to green, around the green, with his driver. Good, he's been bad all the way around. He's putted decently, but I think he's just kind of saving himself slightly on the greens. But it's been an atrocity for Carlos Ortiz of late. Although I never forget the long shot Houston Open when I had back a couple years ago. So that always sticks with me when I start seeing him at big numbers. But he was definitely trending a lot more back then and was still a little bit of an unknown name. So not too much to really think about with that. Obviously, we've been on Harry Higgs plenty. He's at 210 to 1 in this field. Somewhat interesting. Brandon Wu, relatively interesting at 160 to 1.
There's two Woos in the field.
Yeah, Dylan and Brandon. Yeah, Brandon.
420.
Yeah. I don't know. The only reason I'm mentioning is that because I saw Brandon hit like a fucking nasty ass shot on Sunday at the Memorial to make eagle, but he finished 69th, so it was a one blip highlight for Brandon.
Are they relatives, the Woos?
Not sure, but also Brandon does have an affinity for playing well in neighboring countries – he finished third at the Puerto Rico Open and second at the Mexico Open.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know if that trend continues.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, he just doesn't like playing in the States, but as soon as he crosses the border, he starts playing well.
That's interesting. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, then there's some other names down here like Danny Lee is 380 to 1. My guy Henrik Norlander is at 380 to 1. And I could see Norlander, like, he'll play well on Thursday, and then as soon as he starts missing greens, he'll shoot 8 over on Friday and miss the cut. So maybe a long shot first-round leader on Norlander, just for old time's sakes, but not a ton to really look at the farther you go down the board. So I think we could probably wrap it up there. I got currently Hatton, Mitchell, Kirk, Brendan Todd, and the 2 long shots on Svensson and Smotherman. And I will have a top 20 card out this week as well, but it's going to be short and potentially not that juicy. I may just kind of stick with Kirk, Mitchell, and Todd up top and kind of go with the, plus 200 type top 20 plays. So that's where I'm at this week, Matt. What do you got?
Yeah, I think I'm going to end up with same starting 3, Hatton, Mitchell, Kirk, and then I'm looking at CT Penn, JT Poston, and my join you on Team Smo.
Okay. All right, so we have a variety of ways to get a little team win going. I like that. Obviously, Boss has Fitzpatrick. One and done has been bad for me recently. Unfortunately, I'm still in the top 300, so still in the money, but there's still a good amount of events left, so I got to finish strong. I am a little conflicted on what to do. I do have I do have Fitzpatrick, Burns, Lowry, Finau, Hatton available at the top. I have Chris Kirk loaded in right now. Might just go all in on the Kirk bandwagon this week. It's scary though, but the thing is, you make a move by having a guy that maybe a bunch of people don't have. He played really poorly last week, so I think people might be scared to take him this week. So I think I'm gonna go that route.
Yeah, I was considering him too. I had like two different ways I could go with it. I mean, I need to kind of make a little bit of move there. I'm still kind of hanging around, but just outside the top 1,000. So
maybe a CT Pan play.
I don't know if I'm gonna go that deep with the CT Pan play. My thought was either Chris Kirk or play it safe and use like a Lowry or a Fitzpatrick that I think are gonna finish fine, and I'm probably not going to use them again for the rest of the year. But sometimes you just got to get a little risky and move up the list. Last time we did this with Max Homa, it worked out pretty well. So
yeah, worked out very well.
Back to kind of that 40 range, and Kirk gets a winner for us, and we move way up.
Yeah. So, boss, you're getting Fitzpatrick on the board for 1 and done, correct?
Yep, that's
all right. All in on Fitz. So really, all we got left to talk about is a little live golf tour action this week in London. I know, Matt, you did as much research as you could on what we're potentially working with over there. Obviously, 48-man field. Dustin Johnson and Phil Mickelson have combined to now rake in over $300 million just to sign up to play over there. Insane. The odds are on Odds Checker. They were on FanDuel briefly. I know that Matt may have already placed a bet on the Live Tour. So
I got one in, and they got taken down.
So we'll see if they get repopulated. But we do have some odds.
It also could have been taken down, I think, because then like the Phil news broke, and then so I don't know if they're repopulating. Or I know there's like a player draft tomorrow night for like the teams, so maybe they're just waiting for that to put them back up. But regardless, we saw a brief glimpse of them over here in the States on FanDuel. So
right. So we are in London. We have a 48-man field. We talked offline before we started, and we may be all getting on a certain player's bandwagon as the Live Golf Tour starts up. But what were your initial thoughts on the first event?
Yeah, so I did a little research on the course. It looks to be pretty short, 7,084 yards, listed as par 72, but I think they haven't put up the official tournament card yet. I think they're probably going to switch out to a par 70. They probably have to change to those par 5s because a 7,000-yard par 72 just seems a little bit ridiculous.
Could be insane. They just start the Live Golf Tour with like winner fires off -35.
Yeah, I mean that would be
birdie bonanza
out there. Yeah, I think they're going to have to change that around. I did see bank greens, and looks like we got tree line holes 1 through 5 and 14 through 18. Opens up a little bit in the middle, but then there's kind of some fescue there. That's the penalty if you miss a fairway. So I think maybe accuracy is going to be pretty important this week there. 80 bunkers, water and play on 4 holes. Haven't really seen much professional events there. 2017, they hosted the Golf Sixes event, which was kind of like the European version of the Zurich Classic. Team Denmark won, led by Thorborn Olesen. But the only guy who was in that field that I could find that's in the field this week is Pablo Larrazabal from Spain.
Yeah.
He represented Team Spain that week. So maybe a little inside knowledge from him. I saw him floating around the 40-1 range. But my first click was Sergio, 12-1.
I mean,
not a surprise. I mean, the inaugural event, I had to go to my guy.
What'd you get him at?
12-1.
Okay.
Which actually, relatively, I mean, considering the odds and the field, not horrible.
No, definitely not. I mean, when you said that, I mean, it was going to be kind of a tree line start, and obviously, I kind of think that it's a shorter course and it could be a birdie fest. I think Taylor Gooch is going to be set up pretty well here.
Yeah, I think Gooch is going to play nice.
He may be set up well at a lot of these events. So I'm looking at Taylor Gooch at the top of the board. I want to get some action in. And obviously it's a 48-man field, so I don't think you can be super afraid of the low numbers you're going to get at the top of the board. I mean, Kevin Na is 12-1. I mean, that says a lot. So we're going to be dealing with a whole new brand of golf we're going to be all over the world, basically. So the Live Golf Tour is starting in London, but We're going to have plenty of events to get into. So we'll see who kind of starts out hot. Might as well get into our guy. I mean, I don't think there's
the guy.
We found a guy. There's a guy who played in the Olympics for Zimbabwe, went to school at Virginia Tech, plays on the Asian Tour. Scott Vincent, pretty impressive resume. He's got 4 professional wins and 5 runner-ups on the Asian Tour, and the guy is at 30-1 on OddsChecker and as low as 22-1. So clearly the books are respecting this guy. Feel like he's got a complete game, complete package. I'm liking Scott Vincent.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I think I'm convinced now Scott Vincent's kind of nasty. So we're gonna be on board this week. He's gonna be our official guy over there in the Live Golf series.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, 30-1. Why not? And there was really no. I'm gonna be very interested to see how this starts up. I mean, we do have a bunch of young guys in the field too, and I think we'll see kind of how they stack up against these PGA pros and European Tour pros. Obviously, Sam Horsfield is another guy who's played really well in Europe. He's at 18-1. Justin Harding as well is at 20. Bernd Wiesberger we've seen plenty of, and then the veterans like Louis, Sergio, Kevin Na. Obviously, DJ is at 4-1 at this event. So we'll see how long DJ ends up under 5-1. We haven't really seen him play that well, so I don't know how long he'll last at those odds. That's why these events are going to get interesting, because you may end up seeing guys with good golf resumes over their world's career and on this new tour being at nice numbers if they get off to a shitty start. So
yeah, it is kind of crazy too. I mean, I think it's not a stretch. I think it's pretty fair to say Gooch has been better than DJ lately.
Definitely.
And you get him at double the number.
Yeah, I think consistency-wise, Gooch is probably the best player on the tour. So
yeah, probably.
It's a hell of a career move for Gooch if he ends up he just rings off 3 wins to start the Live Golf Tour. Just make a clean $12 million.
Yeah, there's some speculation. I mean, I wish they would tell us how much he made to go over there.
Right. That's what we don't know, the signing bonuses, for each of these guys, but obviously the big numbers have come out. I would think that Gooch got a pretty hefty fucking paycheck. I mean, he's giving up more in theory than the older guys,
Yeah, I think there's 2 unknowns that we've yet to find out, and one of them is kind of everybody's money, because I think that's going to be a big thing too. In terms of other guys going there, if everyone's getting paid a good amount, I could see a lot of guys leaving to go here.
Right.
Especially I could see guys you struggle for a little bit and you get pissed off looking over at this tour and you see someone who you're way better than pick up a quick $4 million. It's whoa, what the hell, dude? That's crazy.
All it's going to take is Hudson Swafford winning one event, and that's going to be it. It's going to be a mad rush.
No, seriously. Yeah, Peter Uihlein, something like that. Are you kidding me? He's making more money than me?
Yeah.
I think the big thing that's not been disclosed is are you going to get official World Golf Ranking points for these events?
Right.
Because if not, then long term, these guys are going to have trouble qualifying for majors.
Right.
Which could sway some of the younger guys from going over there.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think they'll be able to do that because there's so many tours, like the Sunshine Tour in Africa, the Asian Tour, like we just mentioned, that Vincent plays on. They all get official World Golf Ranking points attributed to them. So, the strength of the field is actually stronger than a lot of these other tours. So, in theory, you would think that there would definitely be points associated with it. I don't know how they do the math behind that, but I could see them earning some decent points. They do have, I think they had 15 to 20 guys under in the World's Top 100. So it's an interesting tour filled with a bunch of veterans and then a bunch of young guys and some middling guys in between, like Hudson Swafford. But I don't know. We'll see, I guess, how competitive it is. And if they go out there and they're just trying to put on a show and they're first event, 37 under.
Yeah, well, either way, I think it's now that it's officially happening, as long as the tournament finishes and someone gets a paycheck, I think the PGA Tour is kind of the ball's in their court on how they're going to react, because we'll see what kind of penalties these guys get, but on top of that, as long as these events are going on and guys are getting paid, I think it's appealing for guys to go over and play.
Right. There obviously is the moral aspect to it. Like the money that is being thrown around is from, regimes that are completely inhumane, for one. So there are definitely guys that have that on their minds, and there are guys that have made shit tons of money and probably don't even care about the money. But for the younger guys who are trying to make a career of golf, I think you can maybe throw that aside for, I don't know, like you're not signing your life away. I mean, unless the PGA Tour says you're like banned for life or something, I don't know why guys wouldn't even necessarily try to go over there for a couple of years, make a shit ton of money, and then come back.
Yeah, I don't know what, like, that's the PGA Tour. Their decision right here is going to be a pretty big one, for kind of putting a stop to this or whatnot. But I think for a lot of guys, it's like you still get to play golf for a living, and you make even more money, like with more flexibility in your schedule because there's only 8 events. I feel like if guys keep getting paid, they're going to keep going over there.
Right. So then that's what it comes down to, too. The official world golf ranking, qualifications for majors. And who knows? That may not even be a big deal for some guys. They may just be looking for money, and they don't even care about playing the majors.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see all the people on, golf Twitter and everything talking about, like, legacy and whatnot. But we kind of talked about this before, too. It's like, I think that there's probably, like, 20 guys maybe on the PGA Tour where, like, they have a legacy to protect. I mean, for the majority of the guys, it's like, are you?
Yeah,
what
but even
legacy are you really? If you're just like a regular player, it's not like you have some crazy legacy that you have to uphold. Like, if you have a chance to make a ton of money, I think it logistically makes sense, to go ahead and do it. If you're not, I mean, obviously, if you're morally above that, I get it. But from a money standpoint, like taking that out of it, it makes a whole lot of sense to do it.
Yeah, taking that out of it, it's just like it becomes like a very easy decision, I think, for a lot of people, depending on what the ramifications are. But like you said, I mean, Tony Finau, for one, I mean, yeah, he doesn't have a giant legacy to protect, so to speak, besides that, like, people think he's a great guy and that he's been a very successful golfer in the PGA Tour for quite some time. Like, he doesn't have a shit ton of, like, wins to back up. Like, he's going to make a ton more money on that tour. And it's immediate. I mean, we've seen already the 2 biggest paychecks for signing bonuses, but we have no idea what these other guys are getting. They're poaching kids out of college to come right onto the LIV Golf Tour. They don't have any qualification standards to make like the PGA Tour, where they're just going to automatically be making at least 125 grand 8 times a year.
Yeah, and I mean, it's so hard. Like,
you're basically making $1 million for 8 tournaments.
Yeah, well,
if you finish in dead last.
To kind of judge someone for doing it, it's like you look at kind of these guys who are elite guys, like Ricky Fowler. Even, I mean, Spieth is back, but to a degree, like he fell off for a while too, and it's like that could happen very quickly. And if you're below them, if you're like an average golfer and it happens to you, like you could lose your PGA Tour card. Like that could happen to any of these middle tier guys if they go through a slump for like a year. So to not take that money and that's guaranteed, I mean, I'm not gonna like judge someone for doing that.
Yeah, it's also interesting to see what kind of sustainability this tour will have, because they're going to need to make money back somehow. So we don't know where that's going to come from yet. I mean, the media rights, we haven't seen anyone take a hold of that. They're running their first tournament on YouTube and on their website. So we'll see how many people tune in. Like, is their website going to crash? Like, who the fuck knows? Like, what are the commentators going to be like? I guess they can't get much worse than what's on the PGA Tour. Sorry, shots fired a little bit there, but yeah. I mean,
sorry, Christina Kim, but
I was definitely not talking about Christina Kim, but but yeah, I mean, and even then, I mean, they have a shit ton of money, so they could be throwing it around at the technology. They could be throwing it around. They only have 12 groups to track. Like, I mean, maybe 15 groups, but yeah,
I think they're in their theory basically is if you get enough decent guys over there to play, like eventually there's going to be some sponsorships there and there's going to be some money coming in. You know, if you have a good enough field and people are tuning in, like I think that's kind of a big thing too. I mean, we'll see how many people they get to watch, but I think a lot of people are intrigued by it. As much as people are kind of like laughing it off, I mean, now that it's happening, I think people are kind of going to be like, especially going up against kind of a non-important PGA event, I think people will kind of check it out.
I mean, it's piqued my curiosity for sure, just to see what it's like, how these guys are playing, what the vibe's like out there. I mean, it's all interesting to see how they do handle the broadcasting and what the quality is like. But yeah, I mean, they're tracking way fewer players. It should be easier. There's definitely gaps in the product on the PGA Tour in terms of how they cover the sport. So if they create like an exciting product, I think people will watch, and from there, well, I guess we'll see how it goes. I don't know what big media company is gonna sign on to be their like big sponsor, cover the whole tour. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know that either, but you would think like I could see DJ just taking the bag and not really caring, but a guy like Taylor Gooch, like you would think there has to be some kind of logistics plan that was laid out for him so that he thinks that like this is not just going to fail right away if he made that jump. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or he got $75 million.
Yeah, right. But I mean, like,
which is more money than he would have ever made on a PGA Tour.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah, we don't know that. But if he didn't get like that kind of money, like you would think they were like, yeah, like they gave him something to make him think like, all right, this has some sustainability, and this is not going to be like 3 events and fold.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see as the details come out. But my curiosity is intrigued. I'll definitely try to catch some of the action this week as the tournament goes on. I guess we'll see what this team format is and what the hell their whole season is going to be like. But it's definitely just another tour that now has as much, if not more, I would say, if not more intrigue in the United States as any other tour besides the PGA Tour. Like I think just as many Americans would tune in to see the LIV event as they would a European event.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that.
So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I guess that'll wrap up the first LIV Golf Tour preview. We'll see what kind of steam that tour gets, and if it's, it could be, and it also could be a money-making opportunity. I mean, we'll see if half the field has no chance of winning, we'll find out pretty quickly, I think. And it could be easier to throw some bets in over there. Limited fields. Obviously not as good of numbers as we're going to get, but we're going to ride the Scott Vincent train for the beginning at least. So
yeah, and if we can get Scott on the show, we would certainly love to have him on.
Absolutely. All right, so that's the Canadian Open / LIV Golf preview, episode 101. We're in the hundreds now, so love it. Major golf next week, U.S. Open, Brookline, Northeast Golf. It's going to be awesome. Next week is really what it's all about. So,
and we are now hot with the majors.
We are. We ended the major drought, and now we're on to the next one. So let's do it. Talk to you guys next week.